Good morning everyone. Today we are going to learn about factorization and the techniques involved in factorization. Let us first define factorization. What is factorization? Factorization is the changing of plus minus into times. So it means that in the question there will be addition and subtraction of terms, and in the answer you could see brackets. Okay, a bracket multiplying by another bracket and or multiplying by a constant number. So, what is the difference? What is the relationship between factorization and expansion? That's right. Factorization is actually the reverse of expansion. Now, today we are going to learn about the types of factorization. I divided into three categories: the two-term factorization, the three-term factorization, and the four-term factorization. Now, if we have two terms, how are we going to factorize the two terms? There are two techniques. Either we bring out the common factor of the two terms, and hence factorizing it, or we use the difference of squares method. Okay, of course this technique will be used if each term are squares. Okay, that means, to further elaborate, that means you use the formula a square minus b square is equals to a plus b times a minus b. Okay, you have noticed that there are two terms separated by a minus sign. Each of the terms are square numbers, and so you can factorize it into the product of two terms, each bracket representing one term. Alright, the first term multiplying a second term. So that is two-term factorization. Now, three-term factorization, you will use the chair, build the road method. Which is also a chair, build the road method. I will further elaborate on this method later. And then, four-term factorization, you'll be using the chair, you'll be using the chair, first two terms, bring out common factor. Okay, next two terms, bring out common factor, and then bring out common factor. So by using this chair, first two terms, bring out common factor, next two terms, bring out common factor, you are able to master the technique of a four-term factorization. Okay, I will now illustrate all the above techniques using examples. Okay, now let's go through example 1. Example 1 will concentrate on the factorization of two terms. So if you were to notice, all these examples is one term subtracting a second term, and here there are two terms separated by a minus sign, and there are two terms separated by a minus sign. Okay, so taking a look at the first question, we will use our first technique. Is there any common factor? Yes, you would have noticed that the first common factor is the minus, so I'm going to take out a minus, and the common factor of 15 and 10 will be 5. Okay, next, take a look. The pi is also common, so I'm going to take out the pi. And then x cube is common, so we are taking out the x cube. And then you have noticed that the y is not common. Okay, so with this, now we'll do the factorization of three terms in example 2. You're asked to factorize x squared minus x minus 12. Now notice there are three terms here, separated by minus sign. And the second example, part B, there are also three terms, separated by plus and minus sign. And the last one, part C, you can see there are three terms, separated by the plus signs. So all the three term factorization cases, you have to use the build the road cheer to factorize. Okay, the title is called Build the Road Cheer. Let's cheer together. Front times front, front. Back times back, back. Build the road. Now by cheering this, you master the technique of factorizing all these expressions. Now let's put the cheer into practice. For part A, we first put the answer as 2 brackets. Now we know that front times front will give me x squared, will give me front. So x times x will give me x squared. Now next one, back times back give you back. So the back is actually minus 12, including the sign. So you can either have a minus 4 times plus 3, minus 4 times plus 3, or minus 3 times plus 4. So what do you do? Now we can actually try it out. We can actually use a minus 4 times a plus 3. Now how do we know whether this answer is correct or not? Easy, we'll use build the road. Now how to build the road? You will draw the terms in this way. Now notice that x is joined to minus 4 and plus 3 is joined to x to form a road. So this is called build the road. Now when you build the road, you should be able to get the center term minus x. So we take x times minus 4, that will give you minus 4x. Now how about plus 3 times x? That will give you plus 3x. Then we add the terms together. So plus 3x minus 4x, you get minus x. So you should get the center term minus x. So this factorization is correct. Okay, so I repeat, front times front, front. So x times x will give you x squared. Back times back will give you minus 12. So plus 3 times minus 4 will give you minus 12. And when you draw this road here and add the terms together, you should get the center term. And there you go. You finish factorizing the three terms over here. Now let's move on to part B. 5x squared minus 14x plus 8. Now please bear in mind, the expression given must have the either powers of x descending from 2, 1, 0 or ascending. That means you have a constant x and then an x squared term. Okay, so you must arrange it in this format before you can do your build the road cheer. So come, let's build the road. Front times front, front. It will be 5x times x will give me 5x squared. Okay, then back times back, back. So you must have plus 8. So plus 8 is either plus 8 times plus 1 or plus 8 times plus 1, or you can have plus 2 plus 4 times a plus 2, or you have a minus 4 times a minus 2. Now first you have to decide, should you use a plus or a minus? Now you must take a look at the center term. Okay, now the center term, if you have noticed, the center term here is a minus, okay, minus 14. So instead of taking a plus times a plus, you should take a minus times a minus to get a plus 8, right? So since I must get minus 14, I'll take a minus times a minus. Since I want to get plus 8, I'll put a minus 4 here. Minus 4 times minus 2. That will give a plus 8. Now, we build the road and check. 5 times minus 2. That will give you minus 10x. Minus 4 times x. That will give you minus 4x. So, adding the terms together, minus 4x minus 10x, you get the center term, minus 14x. Okay, so that's correct. Now, at the end of the factorization, kindly check that inside there's no common factor, neither do you get difference of squares within the bracket. Okay, so here you have factorized the terms. Now let's move on to part C. Part C, realize that there's a common factor of 2, so you take out 2. And then after that, you get a 3 terms inside the square bracket. Now you will use build the road method. Okay, now you should know front times front give you front. Okay, so we are done. And then after that, back times back must give you plus q square. So if it's a plus q square, you either can take plus times plus or minus times minus. You will take a look at the center term. The center term is a plus 2pq, so you will use a plus q times plus q to give you plus q times plus q to give you plus q square. Okay, then we do build the road and check. P times plus q will give you plus pq. And then center term, plus q times p will give you plus pq. So adding both of them together, plus pq, you get the center term plus 2pq. So I'm right. Okay, can we stop here? Now, unfortunately we can't. We realize that these two brackets are actually the same number. So it's something like a times a. You should express the answer as a square. So you should express the final answer is p plus q whole thing square. Okay. So that's all for 3-term factorization. Okay, now let's move on to the next example. Example 3, which is the 4-term factorization. Notice that each of these examples here, there are 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4, separated by 2 minus sign and a 1 plus sign. In part B, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 terms separated by 2 minus sign and 1 plus sign. So check that you have 4 terms. Now to do 4-term factorization, you will use the cheer. First 2 terms, bring out common factor. Next 2 terms, bring out common factor. Bring out common factor. Come, can we cheer again? First 2 terms, bring out common factor. Next 2 terms, bring out common factor. Bring out common factor. So how do we use this cheer for 4-term factorization? Okay, let's take a look. First 2 terms, take out common factor. So I take out 8. And then a, so I get b minus c. Next 2 terms, take out common factor, so I take out plus d, I will get minus b plus d plus c. Okay, and bring out common factor. Now you can see that this is 1 term and this is a 2nd term separated by a plus sign. Now where is the common factor? You can check 8a and d, there's nothing common. Now this bracket is b minus c. This bracket is c minus b. Is there any way of bringing out this minus sign? And hence swapping the position of these 2 terms? So, you know that the second term here is actually C minus B. But if I were to take out a minus sign, you can swap the terms to become B minus C. And then in that case, you'll be able to make the brackets the same, B minus C and B minus C. So that's what I will do in the next step. I will take out a minus sign and then swap the term from C minus B to B minus C. Okay, and there you go. You can see that out of the two terms here, 1 minus 2, there's a common bracket of B minus C. So I take out B minus C. And then, if I take out the B minus C, you can see I'm left with 8A minus, and I take out B minus C, D. Alright, it's round bracket. So it becomes the product of two terms. There you go. You have factorized the whole expression. Now let's move on to part B. Now part B, again we use our first two terms factorize. So I take out 3x squared as a common factor. Next two terms, oh sorry, this is a 2. Next two terms factorize. So I take out a minus sign. And then since the plus sign is made out of 2 minus, it becomes x minus 2. Okay, you can easily check by taking this minus and multiplying into the bracket. Minus times x will give you minus x. Minus times minus 2 will give you plus 2. So you are not changing the question. Now you are left with two terms. One term, subtracting a second term. For two-term factorization, you must take out common factor. So the common factor is x minus 2. So if you take out, you are left with 3x squared minus, and then if you take out x minus 2, you are left with 1. Okay, so in this case, you have changed the expression into the product of two terms. Hence, you have factorized the four-term expression. Now, let's move on to some challenger. Now, you're asked to factorize this whole expression. Now, before you embark on this question, you have to study how many terms are there. Now, looking carefully at the minus sign, you should have realized that there's only two terms. One term, subtracting a second term. So, there's only two techniques involved. Either you bring out common factor, or you make the first term into a square number, and the second term also make it into a square number. Now, you know it's not possible, because the very first term cannot be made into a square number, which means that they're testing you on bringing out common factor. So now let's study the first term, 5x plus 10y. Within this bracket, is there any common factor? Yes, there's a 5, so I'm going to take out the 5. Now for the second term, 3x plus 6y. Is there any common factor? Yes, there's a 3, so I'm going to take out the 3. Okay, now we can also analyze this number, 2y minus x, and this is x minus 2y. So remember, we can swap the terms if there's a minus sign by taking out this minus sign. So I'm going to take this minus sign out and swap it into 2y minus x, making this bracket the same as this bracket. Okay, so let's embark on the question. Taking out a common factor of 5, 2 times 5 will give you 10. And then you get x plus 2y minus x squared. And then you bring out a minus sign just now. So, and then you bring out a common factor of 3, making this 12. And you get 2y plus x. And then this one you have to swap the terms. 2y minus x. So at this point you would have realized that there's no more common factors within each bracket. And then you realize that this number is the same as this number. 2x plus 2y is the same as x plus 2y over here. And 10 and 12, there's a common factor of 2. So I'm going to bring out all these common factor. Bring out a common factor of 2. Okay, bring out x plus 2y. And bring out 2y minus x. So that will make 10. Okay, this 10. 2 times what will give you 10? So that will be a 5. And then this bracket has been taken out. Now this bracket, remember there's 2 of them. You take one out, so there's one remaining inside. Plus 5 at 12, you took out 2 as a common factor. So you're left with 6. And then this bracket has been taken out as a common factor. This bracket has been taken out as a common factor. So the factorized form will be this. Simplifying, the last bracket will be 10y minus 5x plus 6. Okay, for part B, now appearingly hard, but I'm going to rearrange it. Now you have seen the pattern, a square minus 2ab plus b square. Okay, so what is the answer for factorization? It will be, now you realize that your capital A is b plus 2. And what is your capital B? It's b plus 1. So when you factorize this, it will be a minus b whole thing square. So capital A is b plus 2. Capital B is b plus 1. So a minus b whole thing square. So simplifying the terms, b minus b, you get 0. 2 minus 1, you get 1. 1 square, the answer is 1. So that's the answer for factorization. Okay, so I hope that you have enjoyed the challenges. That's all for this module on factorization.